So the experiment is pretty simple. Can a used snowboard mounted on the back of my tow vehicle actually improve the gas mileage while towing a small camper? Please stay tuned to find out the results. As one who travels long distances in search of new ideas and areas to explore, finding ways to improve gas mileage and not breaking the bank has been a challenge for years. Now, if you're familiar with my videos from the past, you know I'm always experimenting, trying to improve my camping experience, and I pass on my ideas and observations for my viewers so it can improve their camping experience as well. And my latest project is one about gas mileage. Now, my little Jeep here is pretty good by itself, but once I hitch up my camper, the gas mileage goes down considerably. There must be a way I can improve on it. And that's what this video is about, because about a month ago I started an experiment and now I can give you the results. But let's go back first so I can show you what I've already done in the past. Now, the key piece of equipment for this experiment, along with the tow vehicle and the camper, of course, is this, a snowboard. This is a good old Canadian snowboard, or at least I bought it in Canada. I don't know if it was made in Canada or not, but it is about 150 centimeters long, and at the fattest part it's about 28 centimeters. Now, I know these vary in sizes, but this is what I found. This is the slippery side. This is the side that sees the snow, and it's also the side that's going to deflect the wind. Keeping it slippery might help that a bit. On the other side is the part that sees the boots and the straps. Now, I had them without, I bought it without hardware. I didn't need the hardware because I just throw it out anyway. And that was probably why I got such a good deal on it. I just needed the board. It was used, it had seen its wear and tear, and I bought this for $25. Buying snowboards in the summer, believe me, is a bonus. And buying it used, I mean, new ones are pretty expensive, but used beat up ones are super cheap. You'll probably even get a better deal than me. Now, what I added to this were these pieces here. And what this is plastic that I got from a cutting board, which was 7/16 of an inch thick, just enough to hold these wood screws right here, because I've got them on with 4 wood screws on each side. Now, I probably could have made this even sturdier if I wanted to, like put brackets here or glue it, whatever you want to do. But this is an experiment. I'm still trying to figure out the best way of doing it. I had to start somewhere. Now, along with this, and by the way, these are, and I'll just show you, a triangle shape. And the reason being is when it sits on my roof, it has to tilt. And I've got it tilting about 30 degrees. Now, is this optimal? I don't know. But I think 45 degrees was too much, and I think like 15 degrees was too little, so I opted for 30 degrees. Now, as far as other hardware goes, I've got 2 U-bolts, and these are about 2 inches across. And what I did is I put holes in the side, and this is what holds it to my roof rack. And these just go on like that. Now, there's also some plates, some lock washers, and wing nuts. And the reason I'm using wing nuts is because I don't need any special tools. I can take it on and off with just unscrewing the wing nuts and tightening them on. I think that's good enough for the experiment, so let's put it back on the Jeep. Now, putting it on is quite easy. On my roof rack at least, I've got this space in behind here, and that's what I put the U-bolt through. So it goes on like this, and it's a little tricky to line up because it's dark in there. But I got it anyway. And just do the same for the other side. Well, when I first put this idea on a YouTube video, I got a lot of responses, and most of them were positive. People just saying, carry on, let's see if it works. We'd really like to see if you can make something very easy and cheap, and it actually saves you fuel. And there's other people that actually gave me new ideas, and that's always great when I get new ideas. And finally, there's this itsy teeny tiny group of people, shall we call them the critics, who basically say whatever you do, it's not gonna work. Well, I'd like to address the critics because I had a few comments and they shared those comments with me, so why don't I share them with you? What are some of those comments? I have to say, whatever you try with your current setup, you will never be able to gain significant improvement versus the amount of money and labor invested. You should look into replacing the tow vehicle. So what this person, I believe, is saying is don't invest $35 and a couple hours to try this out. Why not just invest tens of thousands of dollars on a new tow vehicle to save a few cents on gas? Don't think I'm going to go with that idea, but thank you. Another one is, in case it hasn't been mentioned, these types of deflectors have little to no effect. You won't get your $30 back. Well, that's pretty... Okay, I gotcha. It's not $30, by the way, it's $35. And yes, you're entitled to your opinion. No problem. And there's one more, and this guy actually said I could even quote him, so I will. 30+ years over the road semi-driver. The only way to cut the drag resistance of the trailer is to shorten the distance between the front of the trailer and the tow vehicle. So what he's saying is there is no other way. You have to shorten the distance between the tow vehicle and the trailer. Well, guess what, John? I'm not going to do that. So, thank you for your opinion and your 30 years, but I do believe there is another way. So, with all these people that have sort of tried to dissuade me, am I still going to do it? Of course I am! Some might have noticed the gap between the roof of my Jeep and the deflector. I could fill that in, but I had a different solution in mind. Opening the sunroof at a slight angle should deflect some of the wind over that gap. That's my theory anyway. So now it's on, secure. It's time for some road tests. I set out in late May for a short test in Alberta's Rockies. The weather wasn't ideal, and I took the back roads in case the deflector wasn't secure enough. This was my last Alberta campout before my big move. When I checked the deflector, it was on, strong and secure. So that paved the way for testing on the return trip. The weather was better and the highway was mostly flat, making it ideal for consistent testing. Here's the actual footage during the trip, taken from my sunroof. The deflector only had a slight shake in the middle, but it was pretty solid. My vent lid, however, was flopping a little as I didn't close it tight enough. I only used half a tank of gas, but it was enough to give me some preliminary results. Based on past performance, a half tank only gives me around 190 kilometers at best. But this trip, I achieved 227.9 kilometers. Now I find metric a little confusing, so let's convert to miles per gallon. 190 kilometers is 118 miles, and 227.9 kilometers is 141.6 miles. Half a 20-gallon gas tank is 10 gallons. Do a little math, and my old average was 11.8 miles per gallon. But the new result was 14.2 miles per gallon. Seemed like I saved over 2 miles per gallon on my first test. Well, my results of the first test were definitely promising. It appeared that I had increased my gas mileage by just using this deflector. However, I really didn't do a good job in trying to document it because I didn't do a comparison of the same route without the deflector. I was just basing it on my average gas mileage. And the second point is, although I did try a deflector on the tow vehicle, perhaps there are ways I could reduce the wind resistance on the camper itself. On my camper's roof, I have both a vent and a large solar panel. These could be contributing to wind drag. I had previously tried pool noodles and ABS pipe to reduce this, but they didn't really do much. I had a black acrylic sheet kicking around for years, so I thought I'd put it to good use. First, I cut it down to the right size for my roof, and then drew a line where I wanted it to bend. I secured it with a board on both sides of that line and tightened with a vise to hold it. As my vise wasn't wide enough, I also used clamps at the ends. I peeled the paper cover off the exposed area and next fastened 2 more boards on the top part of the sheet. I left about a 2-inch gap for bending. Now came out the heat gun. I used this on high setting and gradually applied heat across the exposed area. Slowly it started to get hot enough that I could bend the acrylic gently by pushing it back. After giving it enough time to cool and re-harden, I took it out of the vise. And removed the remaining paper. I used a belt sander to round the corners and to contour the deflector to the desired shape. So here's the 2 deflectors here. I've got one for in front of the vent and the other is for the front of the solar panel. Now the next challenge is, how am I going to fasten these to the roof? I do have the 3M extreme mounting tape. I haven't had any luck with that before, but if it gets hot enough, maybe it'll adhere properly. I guess I'm going to find out. I had used the 3M extreme mounting tape for a spice rack in the past, but it performed poorly. However, in this application, it might be more suitable. I made sure the solar deflector did not interfere with the tilted panel. First, I installed the vent deflector, then I temporarily taped the solar deflector to find the best location. I applied strips of 2-sided tape where the deflector made contact with the roof, and then laid it down and applied pressure. With the camper deflectors in place and the snowboard on my Jeep, it was time for a more extensive road trip to try them out. During a trip last April, without any improvements for gas mileage, I traveled my trailer from Calgary to Dugald, Manitoba. It was a distance of over 1,365 kilometers or 848 miles. And during that trip, I had passed through several towns to get gas. This second trip, which happened to be the one that I moved east, I had all the deflectors in place, so all I had to do is go to the same locations and record the differences in gas mileage. It certainly would have been foolish of me if after all that driving and all that testing, I didn't keep accurate records. So what I did is I made sure I kept all my gas receipts. And what these showed me is the amount of fuel consumed, but I also recorded the odometer reading so I knew exactly what the distance was. And the third thing is I made sure I went to the exact same gas station every time. Not one 10 kilometers or 5 miles down the road. I went to the same ones every time. The road conditions were similar, time of year was similar, same tires, same vehicle, same camper. I really tried as much as I could to make these things accurate. Well, I have to admit, a trip across the prairies is not very exciting to some, so having a goal in mind certainly helps the monotony of a similar horizon for 13 hours. I think I've kept you in suspense long enough. It's time to reveal the results. Now this is the fun part, because I get to share my results. Now the first time I left Calgary for Red Cliff, Alberta, I had made no modifications whatsoever. It was a distance of 295.5 kilometers, and I consumed 55.6 liters of gasoline. Now, to find out how efficient that was, the only way I'm comfortable with is converting everything to miles per gallon. It's just what I've been familiar with for decades. I hope you'll forgive me. 295.5 kilometers is 183.6 miles, and 55.6 liters is 14.69 gallons. And when you divide miles into gallons, you get miles per gallon. And in this particular case, I got 12.5 miles per gallon. And that's pretty typical. That's what I would typically expect, rolling hills, flat land with the trailer the way it was. However, when I went back, when I added the deflectors, it was a little bit different. I actually only used up 42.13 liters the second time. That's 13.5 liters less. And instead of 12.5 miles per gallon, I had 16.5 miles per gallon. And when you add in the price of the gasoline, I actually saved 17.24 Canadian. $17.25 was still in my pocket. That's awesome. On the second stop, which was Swift Current, Saskatchewan, the distance was 233.1 kilometers, and I'd consumed 39.48 liters. That made the miles per gallon in that distance 13.9 miles per gallon. And so it was a little bit better than the time before. But when I came back with the deflectors on, I only consumed 32.223 liters, and that was 17 miles per gallon. This time I'd saved 7 liters, and $9.29 was still in my pocket. Bonus! Emerald Park, which was outside of Regina, is a distance of 262.8 kilometers, and the fill-up cost me 47.81 liters first time, which is 12.9 miles per gallon. The second time, I only filled up 41.75 liters, saving myself $7.63. The difference in the miles per gallon there, 12.9 miles per gallon before, 14.8 miles per gallon after. Now, Brandon, Manitoba, the next stop, was not that great a saving, and the reason being, it was the middle of a heat wave and I had the air conditioning on. The distance was 358.7 kilometers. I used up 60.197 liters of gasoline, which means that I got 14.0 miles per gallon. However, the second time, it was 57.167. This was the time that I used the air conditioning. I didn't use it the time before. So I only actually saved a few liters. It only came out to 3 liters of a saving and $3.82. But hey, I'll take $3.82. That'll pay for a coffee and a donut at least. The last time I went and filled up was in Dugald, Manitoba, which is outside of Winnipeg. And this one,
I think was pretty cool. The distance was 240.2 kilometers. The first fill up without any changes was 41.51 liters, but the second one with the deflectors, I only consumed 30.5 liters. So as far as miles per gallon go, it was 13.6 before, but now, are you ready? 18.5 miles per gallon. Isn't that crazy? But I have to quantify that because there was a little bit of a backwind, and it was probably blowing me across the prairies. But hey, you know what? If there's a backwind, check your weather forecast. If you're out traveling and you find the wind's going the way you're traveling, go for it, because you can save gas mileage. So the last time I went out, I actually saved 10.97 liters, and that equated to $13.93. So what did I save total? Over 2 days, I saved $51.83. So did I pay for the deflector, which was $35? Yes, I did, and then some. As a matter of fact, my whole trip to the east, I probably saved $100. So was it worth it? For me, totally. It was totally worth it. I'm so happy. Now, for those that were encouraging me, thank you very much. For the critics and the ones that just said fail, 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 well, sorry, 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 but you were wrong, wrong, wrong. Yes. I gotcha. It works. You might try being just a little more open next time. You might learn something. Well, that's my experiment, folks. And I think it worked well, because at least in my case, with a Jeep and a small camper, I was able to increase my fuel efficiency by simply using a snowboard to deflect some of the wind. And it increased it significantly, at least in some circumstances. Now, as they say in TV land, results may vary. For in the hills and valleys of northern Ontario, my gain was a lot less. But for flatlanders, wind deflectors definitely have an advantage. I certainly am going to leave it up there. I think it's proved itself. It's paid for itself, guaranteed. And I encourage others to try it. Some people have bigger trailers. They have different aerodynamics on their tow vehicle, so I don't know if it's going to work. But if it's a small investment of your time and money, why not give it a try? If it does work even a little bit, you may be encouraged to try a little bit more or buy a commercial product. But I'm very pleased. And yeah, I'm glad I did it. In looking back, I think the camper deflectors might be responsible for about a 1 mile per gallon improvement. But it was the tow vehicle snowboard that certainly was the star of the show. You know, it's always my goal to give people new ideas, to get them to explore and try out new things. And I hope I accomplished that. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed this video, and check out my others as well. On to new travels. Oh, hummingbird.